Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you all and then. Idle champions, you reset again. Idle champion. From Waterdeep to Icewind Dale, head out to Cho or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you all and then. Idle champions, you reset again. Idle champions.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another Saturday, if you're watching live. This is Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show, and on today's show, the topic is Warden's Champions of Renown. This was the giveaway pack on Steam. So we're going to cover all 5 of those champions, talk about how they work, and take questions about them from chat. We'll take all kinds of questions, but the ones we're going to focus on in the Q&A portion at first will be specifically on topic. And we have Martin and Mars in the chat pulling questions, so you can ask at any time, but the first hour is specifically for me to talk about the topic. For me to talk about the topic, we do have a code in the chat now. Remember, folks, codes don't show up in chat for streams until the streamers actually show up on the stream. So if you're trying to get the code to come up before, it's going to be for a previous stream. That just, yeah, that's the way this works. That's, you know, for a very, very long time now. So keep that in mind going forward. Let's see here. We're just going to dive right in. I already kind of preset this up. Let's move them. Let's let them move screens so they're not just sitting on level 1. So these are the 5 champions that came in the Warden's Champions of Renown pack. So we have Dinar up front, followed by Gromma, followed by Baeloth, Shandy, and Warden himself bringing up the rear. And then they also gave away the Gelatinous Cube Familiar, which is just the best, and then a Pixie riding a Corgi Familiar, which I think people are enjoying. These are their more idle animations. I turn off the major animations in the settings, but let's just go look at them for a second. Look at those animations, folks. Look at them. The cube's doing the little pseudopod tapping thing, and the Corgi's all, I got you with my paws. And if you were to put them somewhere where, well, I don't have, when I have an ultimate bar, I'll put them on the roaming ultimate bar, and you can see how they move. And we'll do this again. But for now, let's dive into the champions. We'll start with Dinar, the good boy Dinar. Dinar joins us from the C Team, which is an Acquisitions Incorporated subset. Let's get him leveled up a bit. All right. Dinar is a Dragonborn Paladin. He is, despite looking like a tanky boy, or a DPS boy with that big sword, he's healing support. He's healing support. Yeah, he actually does a pretty good job of that. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. His base attack is a magic base attack. Again, despite having that giant sword, it is a magic base attack. He uses command. He targets a random enemy and casts a random command on them, which does a small amount of damage. And I totally forgot that it doesn't tell you what the commands are. Oh, CNE. Oh, CNE. Hold on 1 second, folks. I've got this. I've got this in a guide. So let me just pull it up real quick. One of them is going to be hold. So the target's stunned in place for 3 seconds. The other is flee. The target's pushed back and damage dealt to it is increased by 100% for 10 seconds. So it gets a little bit of a debuff. Not a big one. The third one is fear. The target now has a 50% chance to miss on any attack for the next 5 seconds. Sounds pretty nice. And the fourth one is drop your stuff. The target drops 50% more gold when it dies. So these things... Sorry, chat is distracting me. These things rotate. You don't know which one it's going to happen. So it's not like just a perfect rotation where it's like one after the other. These are just kind of a random rotation. You never know which one you're going to get. The ultimate is acid vomit. You heard that right. He flavored his breath weapon more as a vomit weapon. Dinar attacks the nearest enemies with his comically oversized sword, then vomits acid. It's got a bit of a delay on it, and it always sets things just a little back. Just a kind of a little behind, or I should say in front of it. It ends up being a little closer to the formation than where the enemy is, because I think what they had decided was, well, then they're going to walk through it, right? So it kind of depends when you're dealing with a stationary boss. Sometimes it moves up and drops it on the boss. Sometimes it drops it right in front and does nothing. Keep that in mind. But it does damage over time. It sits there in a big pool for a while and does some damage over time and can be real nice when it lands. So abilities. Aura of Vitality, first up on the list. This is Dinar's healing ability. This is the one that I think makes him a pretty useful healer. Is he targets the champion that has lost the most health on a percentage basis. So any champion that's been damaged, every second he's going to choose somebody in the party to heal. It gives them a healing buff that lasts for 10 seconds. So it's basically a heal over time. It heals for a specific amount, and that amount changes based on multiple factors. But anytime if he's gonna hit you again, like if he chooses you twice in a row, it basically just resets the timer for you. So this is great because this means he can heal. You can put him anywhere, and he'll heal anywhere. He'll even heal himself, and that's not something that all healers in this game do. So that makes him super useful in that regard. The next buff is his support buff. He lead by example. Increases the damage of all champions in the same column as well as behind him in the formation. So he's kind of got a double rule. So not only can he buff in the same column, he can buff everyone behind him. So he's a little more flexible in his placement for buffs. Because at the very least, he needs to be in the same column with you. But he can also just be anywhere in front of whoever your DPS is. And that can come in handy. Alright, so let me go straight into his specializations. Ooh, look at that boss. I decided to take a break from Mad Wizard this week, folks, and we're playing through some of the new content. And man, they did a good job. Look at that, look at that. Alright. Specialization choices. These affect his base attack. So, oh yeah, or everyone cool out. Oh yeah, basically buffs all of those potential commands. So it increases the duration of the hold command by 2 seconds. So that makes it a 5-second stun. And the effects of flee by 100%. So that means you're getting another 100% more damage done. So it's doubling it, basically doubling the original double. It's a double. Fear by 50%, so now instead of a 50% chance to miss on any attack, it'll be a 75% chance to miss. And then it doubles the drop, so it takes drop from 50% to 100% more gold. If you're doing gold farming, like if you're throwing Dinar in for some gold farm action, then it's the left spec is the good one to go. Also, just in general usage, like so that you have the most possible crowd control on single targets. Like if you're worried more about bosses than all the little minions, you go the left spec. Everyone cools out, takes all the commands, and makes them a small AoE, so small area of effect. So if what you're worried more about is that group of enemies piled up on your tanks, he's going to hit all of that with an AoE, and he'll make them run away, or he'll make them, or he'll get an AoE stun or AoE gold drop. It just makes all of that an AoE. So that's good for those situations where you're being flooded with enemies. Like there are certain variants where they add lots of extra enemies, and they just kind of run at you and slam against your tanks, and yeah, this is good for helping you get rid of those. So pick based off the situation you're going to use. Like I said, I tend to go, oh yeah, unless I'm in that flood situation. That's just my personal preference. I think, yeah, all right, we're still Sword Coast. I can cap out on level 13. All right, that's it. He's a very straightforward boy, as you can see here. So he's literally just got Aura of Vitality, Lead by Example. And then his command, is where all of his crowd control comes in. Aura Vitality is healing, and Lead by Example is his buff. So, as you can see, when I'm fully maxed out here with my gear, it's a 3k heal every second. Not bad. Not outrageously amazing, but, in this game, usually heals at the high end are very minor. They're just kind of top-offs, and hopefully, you're dealing with the situation with the tanks. Gear-wise, because he is healing support, you get damage all champions, both with the toothbrush and with Percival, his toothbrush. You get Aura Vitality with his Yum Yum Hut menu, Lead by Example with his coin, and then you get ultimate stuff. You get the ultimate stuff, and then we see the same. He doesn't really have a wide variety of feats. You get a damage all champions. You get a Lead by Example. So these are the party support buffs if you're going that route. Otherwise, you get medic and combat healer to up the healing. So yeah, he's a pretty straightforward boy. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that makes him really useful for newer players, because he's, when you get super complicated champions, sometimes that can be great as long as you understand everything they're doing. But sometimes you just need to be able to look at 2 or 3 things and go, okay, yeah, I get this, and throw them in and rock your formation. All right, next up we're going to talk about Gromma. Gromma, a bit more complicated. While we're on that, we're talking about easy versus complicated champions. Gromma can be a bit more complicated. Gromma is a C&E original champion. A lot of people confuse her with Clarapin the Terrapin that appeared on Force Grey, played by Marisha Ray. No, that's Clarapin the Terrapin. This is Gromma. I've got Gromma in her best skin ever. Look at the octopus. Hold on, let's get her into the base skin though. This is what Gromma normally looks like. Pause. Okay, now we're going back to the Druid Warrior because it's just the best. Gromma is a Tortle Druid, and if you'll notice, it says DPS, tanking, or support. I said or out loud because this is kind of how she works. You spec into a role, and we'll talk about that. But she starts right out of the gate as a 20 overwhelm, as if she's a tank. One of the other things she does is no matter what spec you put her in, she gets all of her health, and some defensive stuff, which we'll go over. So even if you're using support Gromma, she still has the ability to be in the front line if she needs to be. Even if you're using DPS Gromma, which, frankly, folks, I'm just going to tell you right now, that's probably not the best situation ever. If you're having to use Gromma as DPS, you're in a bad way. You're in a very bad way. Gromma's base attack is slow and steady, moving faster than you would expect for an 80-year-old Tortle. She stabs the closest enemy with her spear. Yeah, I think that would take most people by surprise. Let's look at upgrades. Hardened Shell. So again, she gets kind of a she gets some defensive buffs, even though she hasn't even chosen a specialization yet. So decreases the effect of the Overwhelm debuff on Gromma by 25%. So Overwhelm, if we want to talk about this for a second, basically this is the number of enemies that they can tank before taking more damage. And every time someone above that number hits them, they start taking the damage is increased. So she basically effectively can tank better even when she's overwhelmed. Well, that's where they were trying to go, at least. Grandmotherly Love. So this applies across all of her specializations. This increases the damage of all champions in proportion to their age. Champions get a percentage increase reduced by another % for every 10 years old they are over age 20. So basically, the younger they are, the bigger the buff they get. Yeah, that's basically it. Don't go out of your way trying to figure out, well, who should I need to find the youngest champions to put in my formation with Gromma. Don't worry about that too much. If you've got multiple champions that are giving you equal buffs and you can choose, sure. But ultimately, like if you have multiple DPS you could choose from, and yeah. But generally speaking, it's just, Gromma is there for other things than her grandmotherly love. All right. So once Gromma is a throwback champion. She was from year 1. And when I say throwback, I mean to a time when they designed champions very differently. In this case, once you pick one of her specializations, let me bring it up over here. Her upgrade path changes from that point on. So the upgrades she gets and the abilities she gets are different depending on which specialization you choose. This makes her complicated to understand because you don't just have to remember, oh, she's got these abilities. No, she's got these abilities. She's got the abilities that come with this one, and she's got the abilities that come with this one, and they change depending on what you choose. So let's do this in order of least usefulness, in my opinion. We'll do Circle of the Swamp first, and then we're going to have to change. So Circle of the Swamp, all it tells you, it doesn't really tell you a whole lot, and this is one of the reasons why they don't make champions like this anymore. All this says is Gromma now casts Melf's Acid Arrow as her primary attack. It doesn't tell you anything else is changing, right? So let's go into this. So now, suddenly, we have a magic base attack tank. This is something people are like, well, should I use this with Elcoria, which is a champion who likes magic base attack champions? And it's like, well, you could, but really, this is not, yeah, just no, probably. No, but you can see her animation now. She doesn't leave the formation. She just throws out that acid arrow every now and then. So let's talk about what she gets after this, because this is all the abilities she gets coming after. So Acid Splash. Melf's Acid Arrow now does a percentage of its damage as splash damage to nearby enemies. And that AoE is actually bigger than the base damage. You'll also see, like as I told you, she gets health. Despite going a DPS spec, she does get health upgrades. And she's going to get that repeatedly. So Love Thyself increases the damage of Gromma by 75% of her grandmotherly love buff. So now she gets that buff as well. And then Ancient Heroism, she gets this across all specs, which is unique for tanks, for optional tank champions. This is the health share. So she does grant, even in her DPS spec, she gets all of her health and she grants it to others. So she is a truly unique champion in that regard. And that's it, folks. That's it. She gets lots of DPS upgrades and she gets lots of health upgrades. So when you choose her DPS spec, that's what happens. Her ultimate is the same in all specs, Wall of Stone. She summons a Wall of Stone, knocking enemies back and blocking their movement. I guess we could show off here. Here, let me show off Dinar's right as we load into the next screen. He's going to jump out and smack somebody, and then he does his little... oh, there it is. There it is. There's his ultimate. And then here's Gromma's. Boom. Wall of stone. Wall of stone. So yeah, okay, so we're going to change. We're going to go change Gromma's specialization choice. I'm going to use a potion, because that's the easy way to do it. Boom. Let's go talk about Circle of the Mountain. Gromma gains stone skin and takes half damage from all ranged attacks. So this is technically her tanking spec. Technically. So again, she still gets her health upgrades. Now she gets an ability called Spiked Shell. Enemies that attack Gromma gain a pierced armor effect, which makes them take additional damage. This effect can stack up to 25 times per enemy. So there's a nice stacking effect here, but again, she has to be hit repeatedly for it to build up. So keep that in mind. She has to take damage to do more damage. Shades of Grey, she increases the damage of neutral champions by 100% for each enemy attacking Gromma and or each enemy in rage stack. So this is the ramping tank buff that she gets. We talked about ramping buffs in Gaarawarr's Guide to Tanking. So you get, if you haven't watched that, it's on the Cena Games YouTube channel as well in the playlist. So this is her ramping buff, and it affects neutral champions. So we have a recent champion, Corazon, that actually creates neutral champions. So if you have Corazon in your party, and your DPS is not neutral, you can make them neutral with Corazon, and thus Gromma tank could be a thing for you if you wanted, if you needed to use Mountain Spec and Gromma as a tank. And then again, Ancient Heroism is still there, and then just the same, you get lots and lots of health, but it's not a different amount of health, which is again kind of unique for a champion that has a tank spec instead of just being a tank all the time. So let's reset again. We're going to talk about Circle of the Arctic. This is my personal preferred specialization. This is technically her support spec. Gromma casts Sleet Storm when they attack the target enemy, and all nearby enemies are slowed by half, and their attack timers are doubled. So this is a fantastic utility, just right off the bat. Not only does it slow them down, so it takes them longer to get to your formation, they attack less often. It's one of my favorite parts of it. So let's go in and look how this changes her upgrades. Again, everything before her specialization choice is always going to be the same. So she gets Hardened Shell and Grandmotherly Love always. But now, at level 200, this is what makes Gromma's specialization here useful. Freezing Breeze. So enemies affected by that Sleet Storm take additional damage. And they take a good chunk. Like, just starting off, it's more than, 1 or 2 hits of Hardened Shell. However, if you can sit and let Gromma get beat on repeatedly, Hardened Shell will end up being bigger. But that does mean Gromma has to survive, right? And everyone has to hit her. Whereas with Freezing Breeze, she can just run out, smack an enemy upside the face, and debuff them and everyone around them. So it applies. You can apply it sooner. And they never even have to get near your formation to apply this debuff. And then that's it. That's it. That's the one I like. That's the one I tend to use all the time, and it's really just because you get the crowd control, which ultimately is a bit of a survival boost because they're attacking less often and they're moving slower. And then you get the debuff. Because she is this odd combination of champions, her items are out there. She gets a self-damage item because she's a DPS. She gets a damage all champions items because she's a support and a tank, right? She doesn't get a health item, though, which is kind of a big deal. I'll point that out. She gets Grandmotherly Love buff, and then she can boost either Spiked Shell, Freezing Breeze, or Acid Splash with an item. Right, and then she gets ultimate attack damage and cooldown. So again, no health item, and that kind of makes her not the greatest tank. It is neat that she gets her health through all of the specializations and that she can share it in all of the specializations, because that makes your party more survivable. But she herself, not super survivable, which is why, again, I like to use her in her support spec. Because she is, again, an amalgamation of different types, she gets all the stuff. So she gets self-damage, she gets damage all champions, and she gets health feats. She also gets overwhelm feats. She has a keen mind ability, and this one is key because this is what allows her to be used in Patron Strahd. So when you want to do Patron Strahd variants, you do need this keen mind feat. And then she does have a grandmotherly love, a big boost on grandmotherly love if that's a thing you want to do. Again, that's not necessarily the ability you build her around, but it's there. It's there. And I just want to double check. I'm pretty sure. Yes. So the Keen Mind feat for Gromma does lie in Strahd's patron shop there. So you don't have to hunt for it in chests. You just have to get the influence you need to purchase it from Strahd. And then you can start using her against him. Well, for him and against him, basically. So you can see the slow effect applied here on this Drider. Dinar's knocking them back, and then the Drider's moving real slow, trying to get forward. This is kind of this is a good usage of Dinar and Gromma together. When you have them on the same team, and she is in that Arctic spec, single enemies have a very hard time getting to your formation. This can come in handy against bosses who do massive amounts of damage once they get to your party, or do cleaves on your entire party. There are bosses you will run into that walk up and they don't just smack your tank. They smack your tank and multiple columns behind them. Yeah, so this kind of combination is great. Next up on our list is Baeloth the Entertainer. Baeloth is a Drow sorcerer. He's one of our evil champions. His base attack is Chain Lightning. He fires a bolt of lightning at a random enemy, which deals damage in arcs to up to 4 times, dealing 20% less damage per arc. So again, it's neat that he has this Chain Lightning ability, that he's not a DPS. But we're going to see that this actually comes into effect here with some of his other abilities. So what you want more is, you're not really looking at the damage here so much as the fact that he's arcing it across 1 plus 4. 1 plus up to 4. So, right off the back, here we go. This is where it comes in handy. Paid partially with pain. Enemies hit by Baeloth's Chain Lightning drop more gold when killed. Because he is a support gold champion, this is where that gold tag comes in. So as you arc that, as he attacks and that Chain Lightning spreads across, he's going to get a little marking on him, and when they die, they're going to make you more money. Cause for celebration. Enemies killed by champions in the column ahead of or behind Baeloth explode into magical paper confetti. Because why not? Dealing damage and slowing enemies near them by 50% for 10 seconds. The damage done ignores debuffs and is either half of the hit that killed them or 1/4 of their max health, whichever is higher. That's pretty nice. This effect can chain if the explosion kills an enemy. So there's a lot to unpack here. So let's take this one at a time. First off, there is a positional formation. This is a positional formation ability, which means that it is targeting specific. It is only going to trigger off specific people in the formation based off who they're around. So what does this mean? This means that you want to put Baeloth either in front of your DPS or behind your DPS, not in the same column. So in this case, our DPS would either go up here where Gromma is or back here where Shandy is. Because that's the only way, again, enemies killed by champions in the column ahead of or behind, that's the only way they explode and you get this bonus. This is they explode and they do damage in an AoE. But they also slow people in an AoE, so this is also a bit of crowd control. Slowing down their progress towards you, and that slow sticks around for 10 seconds. Now the next part is the damage done ignores debuffs, so that means, this isn't something that gets used in combination with debuff stacking. However, it is still awesome because it's either half the hit that killed them or 1/4 of their max health. Why is that a big deal? Well, you can wear enemies down slowly. and then kill them with a very, comparatively small hit when it comes to talking about their actual health. But when they explode, like maybe a 10th or a 15th of their health, and then when they explode, it's going to do the max of those two options, and instead that means it's going to do a quarter of their max health, which is going to help wear down any other enemies that are around them pretty quickly. So you can definitely make them explode for more damage than you actually did. Most of the time you're probably making them explode for less damage, but still, take it where you can get it, right? And then this can chain. So if you exploded the boss, that might chain through all of the smaller enemies, right? If they had less health. Now we get to the big busy ability. Baeloth is one of those more complicated champions, folks. All champions in the column in front of or behind. So again, now right off the bat we know, okay, I don't have to change how I'm placing him. I already want to place him either in front of or behind a DPS. Now I have those same rules. In front of or behind, they do more damage. They do in front of or behind does more damage per morbid excitement stack. So again, this is built in combination with already knowing the DPS needs to be in front of or behind. So keep that in mind. Morbid excitement loses 10% of its stacks every 10 seconds, and the stacks cap at a number that varies. I know there's a fixed number here, but it's important to understand that this number can vary. Stacks are earned for the following things. 1, an enemy drops more gold due to paid partially with pain, and that's 1 stack. So if you're spreading that pain around and things are dying, you're going to get more gold. That's going to give you 1 stack, right? They give you a little bit because you're probably destroying lots of things. An enemy explodes in confetti due to cause for celebration. That's going to get you 2 stacks. A chain reaction kills an enemy due to cause for celebration. So we talked about that chain reaction. That's 3 stacks. That can get you a little bit of a bonus. A champion in any column in front of Baeloth takes damage. 5 stacks. We're going to pause here for a second. This is another formation management hint. What they're telling you is you kind of want Baeloth, in most cases, you kind of want Baeloth behind the tank. Which means your DPS would then want to be behind Baeloth, right? Because we already know that he has multiple abilities where you want the DPS either in front of or behind. Where you're not going to put the DPS in the front column. Archon's the exception. So this means you usually want him right behind the tanks so that he can stack up these damage stacks. When they take damage, he can build up lots of stacks. And then that means the DPS would go behind him. So keep that in mind. You don't want your DPS in the same column as Baeloth. And then the final one is the champion dies. That's 100 stacks. Yeah. I mean, you get a little bonus if things go poorly. Now, one thing about that, a champion in any column in front of Baeloth takes damage. Again, I usually place right behind the tank for this. There are situations where if you are in a variant where there's AoE, or you're facing a boss, or you're in a variant where the whole party is taking damage for some reason, that loosens up your requirements, right? In that situation, you can move him back because it may be more beneficial to get more stacks somewhere else. So Morbid Excitement has a lot going on. So there is some placement. Again, I think the keys to remember for Baeloth, you kind of want to put him behind the tank column, and you want your DPS behind that. That's ideal, in my opinion. That's going to get you the most Morbid Excitement stacks, and that's going to buff your DPS. Generous Jin. So here we go. I know Baeloth's got a lot going on, but this is arguably the biggest part of the most useful part of Baeloth's kit. Generous Jin is what people are referring to when they start talking about Baeloth stacking or Jin stacking. And I just realized I have the wrong skin. Here's his normal skin, folks. Here's his normal skin. He has a couple different skins. There's Red Panda Baeloth, and I go with the Pirates, because Pirates. So, Generous Jin is what people are talking about when Jin stacking. Baeloth's Jin servant Najim will bring any champion that dies back to life at 1 HP and make them immune to all damage for 20 seconds. So, the moment someone anywhere in the party is going to die, Najim stops that, keeps them at 1 HP, and then they're immune to damage for 20 seconds so that you can panic and do something. Arguably, I think that was the intent. For as long as the resurrected champion lives, the party's damage is increased by 300%. Well, by a percent. This is going to be adjusted. The ability has a 60-second cooldown, so this can only happen once every 60 seconds. This basically gets manipulated so that you rotate champions through the front line. You let somebody die, almost, right? Najim saves them. There's a little Jin icon. It shows up, Najim's face shows up on the champion. In that moment, you change levels. You swap them to a different position. They keep that icon. And then you do it again. And you basically, one by one, you slaughter your whole party. Because why not, right? Everyone gets that bonus on them. And once everyone gets that bonus on them, that means everyone is contributing to this damage increase. And the number is incredible. Incredible. I think yesterday on stream, that one ability alone was giving me an E12 bonus. That's a lot of bonus, folks. That's a lot. Champions don't normally give E12 bonuses. If we looked at Gromma, you remember her freezing breeze, EO5 debuff, right? So E12 is up there. Baeloth is a powerful buffer if you take the time to learn how to Jin stack and to manipulate your formation. Now, the thing to remember is, if you swap somebody out of the formation, like say you swap out a champion, put somebody else in, that Jin stack goes away, and you have to do that manipulation again. If you close your game to go into, like, this isn't something that can be done in offline progress or background. This is that makes it go away too. Anything that resets the state of the game is going to make it, or the champion is going to make it go away. So this is a manual manipulation method only. It is not going to work any other way. But if you take the time to do it, it's going to pay back in a very big way. All right, let's talk about his specialization choices. That's right, folks. We're just now getting to his specialization choices. That's how busy Baeloth is. He's got a lot going on. Look at this. The art. Man, folks, the art lately in this game. Look at that guy. Ugh. Ugh. All right. Specialization choices. We've got Baeloth's birthday party, overexcited, or the show must go on. Now, these serve multiple different purposes, but depending on what you're doing, what your goal is, and what you know you need, that's what's going to determine. That's what's going to determine which specialization you choose. I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, if you're going to Jin stack, or even if you're not, if you think that your champion's going to die at some point and you'll get at least one Jin stack, the show must go on, because this is champions resurrected by Najim are vulnerable for an additional 10 seconds, so you get 30 seconds. And it increases the pre-stack damage bonus of resurrected champions by 100%. It's a big deal. This is a big deal. So generally speaking, if you're going to be pushing to your wall and like trying to go really deep, or you're on a difficult variant, the show must go on is your choice. If I know I have more than enough damage to get where I need to go, and I'm not going to be Jin stacking at all, and I know that because I'm doing a variant, and I know I'm going to be able to complete it without anybody dying, then I go overexcited, because this increases the max stacks of Morbid Excitement. So that's just going to give me a little higher of a buff. It triples it, in fact. It's going to give me a higher of a buff that's applying all the time, and I don't have to do any manipulation stuff. So this is kind of the I'm fairly AFK, or I'm running in background progress. This is where I go for that. Baeloth's birthday party increases the cause for celebration related stacking values for Morbid Excitement by 100%, increases damage bonus by 100%. Here's the thing. If you know you have lots of stacks, max stacks already, you could go Baeloth's birthday party. If you don't, I tend to just go overexcited. So, really, you kind of, there's some math involved over here. That's something you're going to have to figure out. But again, generally speaking, if you're going to be doing lots of manipulation, and you want to go the furthest and have the most damage, then the show must go on. We'll just pick that one right now. Let's get it maxed out here. Alright. I think everything happens before that. Yeah. Then he gets, now that's an entrance. This is his ultimate. So that's the only thing that happens after. Okay. So the ultimate, this is Najim down here. If you want to know what Najim looks like. Najim streaks across the field, dealing massive damage to all enemies, pushing ones that survive back slightly, but more importantly, increasing Baeloth's excitement stacks to max. So this basically maxes out your excitement. You can check these things over here, folks. So here's morbid excitement. There's a lot going on here, but you can see what your stacks are. Current stack 63, max over 1,000. How did we get there, folks? Well, he's got an item for that. So this is why I said if you need stacks early on, you can choose one of those other specializations, but later on it's not super necessary. And this is also where you can count your generous Jinn stacks. So you can see I don't have any Jinn stacks. If I did, it would say 1 or 2 or 3 or up to 10, right? And it would give me the overall bonuses. Keep that in mind on his formation buff screen. That's where you're going. Let's go ahead and do Najim. Let's fire Najim off. Boom, there goes Najim. Takes off. And even Najim has different skins. That was his pirate skin, Najim. Najim has different skins based off what skin Baeloth has. Alright. Feats. Feats and items. Items and feats. You support gold, so he has damage all champions, and 2 of them. Paid partially with pain. So this is going to be the gold find buff item. This is the base effect of morbid excitement. This is the stacks of morbid excitement. And then this is the post-stack buff of Baeloth's generous Jinn. So he buffs all the things, folks. Baeloth is a champion who kind of, because he has what we refer to as full item support, he's incredibly strong scaling with items. So getting lots of items and item levels. People sometimes ask, well, what champions are good for blacksmithing contracts? Well, you kind of can't go wrong here. They're all going to hit something you want. Right? Feat-wise, he gets the damage all champions. He gets some straight gold find feats. But he also gets a morbid excitement. And Baeloth's generous Jinn. So if you're going, you can choose, do I want to buff morbid excitement? He has a 40 and an 80. Actually, I think he has a 20, 40, and an 80, yeah. Or you can go generous Jinn. So, and these affect the post-stack buffs of generous Jinn, right? So this is morbid excitement to build stacks. This is morbid excitement for the ability. This is morbid excitement for the ability. So he gets 3 different ways to do morbid excitement, or 4. Here's the 40% down here. I knew it was there. I just haven't bought it yet. Bad Gaarawarr. And then here's paid partially with pain. So if you want, if you just want to go full gold find. He has a 10 and a 25, but here's a 40, effectively, because you're boosting the gold drop with that by 40%. So he has all the feats. Like, you notice the difference between someone who has, like, they definitely thought about, like, okay, well, what kind of champion is he? And then they built out solid feat sets for him, compared to Dinar, right? Compared to Dinar. Some of the champions in the game could use some help in the feat department. In the feeties department. All right, next up is Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. Shandy is, you'll note, she does say support here. She's a halfling rogue. It says support. The unspoken tag here that the community applies, there's a community tag. She's a speed champion, and we're going to talk about what that means, too. Shandy is one of the heroes of Baldur's Gate, so along with Minsk and Boo. Dolan and Kreidel, and Neris. She joins us from them. She's a short bow expert. Her base attack fires an arrow at a random enemy. That's it. Doesn't get super complicated. Her ultimate is Survivalist. This one's pretty nice. She bends the odds in the party's favor, throwing smoke grenades and caltrops on the battlefield. causing enemies to take the ultimate's full damage over 10 seconds, and having a 50% chance to miss their attacks during that time. So it is a damage ult, but more importantly, this is a survivability ult, because all the enemies are going to miss 50% of the time over that 10-second period. So keep in mind when you're getting to boss levels and you're throwing down ultimates for damage, sometimes you want to hold on to these ultimates that are more of a survivability feature in case things go bad and you need just a little more time to stay alive and do some damage. And then you fire these off. So let's talk about Shandy's abilities. So Agile Allies, this increases the damage of champions within 2 slots. And this is adjacencies, I believe, by 100% for each champion adjacent to Shandy with a dex of 15 or higher. So this is one thing to keep in mind when you're building out your formation party and you're placing her. It can depend on the amount of buff you're getting from Agile Allies or another one of her buffs, Explosive Arrow, here in a moment, depending on kind of which is the priority. But this one means she wants to be within 2 of your DPS. So within 2 adjacent slots of your DPS. And the things around her ideally have high dexterity. Again, that doesn't mean you necessarily build a formation around Shandy and around this buff. It just means that if you have other champions in your formation that qualify for this, then you want to see if you can fit them around her, because that's going to make her buff better, right? Dash. This is her speed effect. Shandy functions like a speed potion. She increases the game speed by 25% when the formation hasn't been under attack for 60 seconds. This has a visual notification. This black arrow surrounded by like kind of an indigo or violet, for me at least. This means Dash is active. This means she has sped up the entire game like a speed potion. And that is important to know. I keep saying like a speed potion because it literally, if you pop a speed potion, she changes the modifier, so you need fewer speed potions to go faster. Because speed potions cap at 10x. So, usually you need like 3 speed potions to get there, like the epic, the large, and the medium. Well, Shandy will get you to 9.28 with just the epic and the large, and you can save the medium for later. What's the next one? Oh, Explosive Arrow. So this Explosive Arrow is her other buff, and this is the other one you have to keep in mind when placing her. She fires explosive. People either forget Agile Allies or they forget Explosive Arrow. I find most people forget that Explosive Arrow is a thing, whereas I always forget that Agile Allies is a thing. It's just, I don't know why. One or the other I end up forgetting. So Shandy fires explosive arrows when the formation is under attack. So this comes into play once you're starting to take damage at the higher levels. For each enemy hit, Shandy increases the damage of the column in front of her by a large percent. So this means that your formation placement for Shandy now has to keep in mind 2 things. She wants to be within 2 adjacencies of the DPS, and she wants to be in the column behind them. So sometimes I see people putting Shandy in the same column as the DPS, and it's like, no, or in front of the DPS, and I'm like, no, get her in the back. I know 2 of her abilities don't care where she's placed, but this one does, and it's kind of a big one. So you want that because the damage increases by that amount based off the number of enemies hit. It can add up. Especially when they're stacking up on your tank. She's pretty flexible with her specialization paths. So Ranger training is going to double the effective dash. It's going to take it from that 25% up to 50%. So that's, if you have it at 50% and you're running speed potions, that's how you get to 9281 that I mentioned before. Otherwise, you're just going to have to run more speed potions. Alchemist Fire Expertise. This doubles the effect of Explosive Arrow. So these are pretty straightforward options. Criminal Contacts. So Agile Allies is increased by 50% for each neutral or evil champion next to Shandy. Once again, this makes the requirement in your formation building even more complicated. If it turns out that you do have a lot of agile allies, right? It's in the name, that qualify, and you've been and they're around Shandy as they need to be, and that's your biggest buff. Then you want to check, are they neutral or evil on the good neutral evil axis, not the chaotic neutral lawful axis, but good neutral or evil axis. If they are, do the math. This may be the bigger bonus for you. Otherwise, if you're pushing, I tend to just default to Alchemist Fire. Speed runs, I go Ranger Training. That's what I'm gonna choose here. And we'll max her out. All right. So that's her specialization choice. I was going to say ultimate, no, it's not. And that's everything that has to do with her. So item-wise, she gets the damage all champions. She gets an explosive arrow and an agile allies. There's nothing, though, item-wise that buffs her speed effect. She also gets ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown. The fact that she doesn't have itemization for her speed effect is why Shandy is one of the champions that I recommend for early time gates for newer players, because that means you get her, you bring her in, and she gets her full speed effect right away, right out of the gate. She doesn't need any gear at all, and she can provide you her full speed bonus as long as the party isn't under attack. That's a big deal. Deacon is the same way. Deacon is another early speed champion you can pick up. Yeah. So that's why she's kind of in that early recommendation list, and that's what actually makes, even though they gave out tons of chests with this promotion for the Warden's Champions of Renown, she would have given you that full speed effect even without that. So you kind of get the benefit of the gear is going to be buffing her as an actual buffer. So it buffs all the things she needs and then gives you more ultimate flexibility. So feat-wise, she does get the damage all champions. She does get to buff her agile allies in a couple different ways. She gets a 20, 40, and an 80. And then she gets a couple stat feats. So this is wisdom and charisma. So keep these in mind if for some reason you're working with in a situation where you do need to bump those up. She's got a couple of those available. Off the top of my head, our charisma's already real high up there. Yeah. Off the top of my head, the wisdom might qualify her for Iraq. Hold on, now I've got to double check. This was not what I had in my vault today. Let me see Gaarawarr focus again. Yeah, 14 or higher. So this would qualify her for Gaarawarr focus from Iraq. So that's not something you need to necessarily know right away as a new player, but it is potentially something that's going to make things more useful if you want to get a little bit of a bonus. If you're using Iraq to buff someone else, then you just want to make sure they're in there for Shandy too. All right, and finally, the non-binary Warforged himself, Warden. Warden is a Warforged warlock. Chaotic Evil DPS support. I'm going to just be frank with you folks, instead of Gaarawarr for a moment. I don't know that Warden gets a whole lot of use as a DPS. Can you? Yes. Generally speaking, I think most people use him as support. That doesn't mean you can't do it. You just got a lot of great gear for him, potentially. He may be great for you, but keep in mind, usually he's a support. His base attack is Hex Weapon Arm Blade. He leaps to a random enemy and attacks them with that blade. You can see it right here. It's deadly looking. Warden does have a skin. So this is Warden's corrupted form, which is, the current thing. But you can go all the way back to Siren Knight Warden from back when, before he got corrupted. This is what he looked like. He was a big chunky boy. Big chunky boy. So Warden casts Hex. This is his first ability on enemies as they attack them. So as Warden jumps out and smacks somebody, he hexes them. This debuffs them and causes them to take more damage from all champions. Hex is spread to nearby enemies when a hex-cursed enemy is killed. So he doesn't necessarily need to hit every enemy. You just need to kill a hexed enemy, and then boom, you get a nice AoE spread of that, which is super nice. Thirsting Blade, this is kind of a bonus for him as a DPS. Whenever he attacks the same enemy twice once you upgrade there. So that gives him a little bit of wave clear. Just a little bit. Master of Hexes, enemies that die while afflicted with the curse. This is what makes. So normally Hex doesn't spread. I forgot. Master of Hexes is what causes it to spread. So enemies that die while afflicted with the curse now spread it to all nearby enemies. Specialization choices. This is basically, are you going just straight up smacking them in the face, or are you trying to do a little bit of an AoE damage? These are your choices with the specializations. So Eldritch Smite, he strikes enemies they attack for a third time. So you get that third smack. He deals 200% extra damage with a 50% chance to stun the enemy for 3 seconds. So if you are going full DPS, this is a great one, and you just want the most possible damage, the left-hand side. I also find this useful for CCing bosses, right? A little crowd control on a boss, if you can get that stun off. Cloak of Flies, basically, whenever they attack, they do additional AoE, but it's only for half damage. Half damage. This can be useful in certain, like in the current click debuff meta for higher end players, higher favor players who have a lot of debuff champions. This additional AoE can help to spread debuffs around. It doesn't spread Hex, which you'd think it would, but it didn't. So yeah, keep that in mind. Cloak of Flies does not AoE spread Hex. You only Hex the thing that you smack in the face 3 times. Warden's ultimate, since it just popped up, we're going to talk about that first. Hunger of Hadar. This might be familiar, folks. Those of you who have been playing the game for a little bit and picked up Prudence, her ultimate is Hunger of Hadar. Well, Warden had it first. Dang it. Warden opens a rift to the void, damaging and momentarily stunning all enemies and pulling them to a position slightly in front of the formation. Boom, like that. And if they weren't dying immediately, they would have been sucked all up in like a magnet here. What is that useful for? Well, it's fantastic for taking those ranged enemies that are just out of range of maybe some AoE off the ones in front, or maybe just out of range of Strix's smelly debuff, and it sucks them in so that now they're in range. So it's great for manipulating ranged enemies, including ranged bosses. It won't move stationary bosses, though, so keep that in mind. All right. Relentless Hex. Hex can now stack up to 4 times on each enemy. There is a visual indicator for this. We're killing everything way too quickly for me to show this off, but there are these little purple notches that show up. I do want to point out it is currently, there's a visual bug on it. It's supposed to drop the overlay and put a notch in for each hit, and you end up with 4 purple notches. But right now, for whatever reason, it's doing kind of the debuff overlay, and it's counting that as the first notch, and then it's only putting 3 additional notches in. So just know that, like, just apply it and get it up to those 3. That should be all 4 of them. It's still applying 4. It's just visually it's not showing up correctly. And hopefully that's something that gets fixed soon, especially now that they gave him out to all these people. But that's Warden. He's pretty straightforward. He does, because he is a DPS and they did want him to be a DPS, he does have 2 DPS attacks or items, self DPS. Then he's got a damage all champions, and then he's got Hex, because it's all about Hex. Warden's bringing Hexy back, right? Then he gets his ultimate attack damage and the cooldown. One thing I want to talk about Hex, and this is one of the reasons that Warden is incredibly useful in the game, even if you're not using him as DPS, or even if he's not always in your party as a support. Currently, Hex is what gets referred to as a lingering debuff, which means you can apply it to an enemy, and then you can remove Warden from your party and put somebody in, and the debuff remains. That's a big deal, because it means you get kind of the best of both worlds. You get the best of Warden as a support, which is his Hex and his debuff stacks. You get to stack all that up, and then you get to pull him out, and then you get to put somebody else in. And get the benefit of all of their buffs, too. Lingering debuffs are kind of a big deal. There aren't a lot of them in the game. For a while they were removing them, but a couple new ones arrived. So keep that in mind, even if you're not using Warden all the time. If you get to a difficult boss and you're having trouble beating it, you can swap Warden in, stack up those debuffs, then pull Warden out. Visually, the debuff, you'll see it applied over here. It's this dark mark, this black mark with the purple. There you go. When it shows up, that's usually counting as the first stack, and then it gets these little notches at the top. So it's just a little, it should show up with one notch automatically with a hit, and it's not. It's just showing up as the mark. The second hit puts a notch, the third puts a second notch, the fourth puts a third notch. So that fourth notch is never going to get filled in. Man, the CC is strong in this team, folks. That guy didn't have a chance. Feat-wise, he gets self-damage. I was apparently using him as a DPS recently. He also gets damage all champions, and then he gets a constitution buff. And is that Vajra? No, that's 14. I don't remember what that constitution stat is for. But hey, it's there. Some of the stat feats in this game don't necessarily serve a purpose currently. But hey, maybe one day. Maybe one day. All right, folks, that covered all of Warden and his Champions of Renown. Remember, that pack also came with the Gelatinous Cube Familiar and the Corgi riding a Pixie Familiar. And I wanted to show them off on the Ultimate Bar. So here's what they look like when they're... Here's what they look like when they're roaming around. There's their motion. They kind of cruise around on the bar. Just they ride back and forth, and then they smack on something. Then they smack on something. Look at them go. Look at them go. All right. All right. Let us turn that back off because that gets to be a lot. All right. We're going to take a short musical interlude. I believe I set up a Warden song from Bardic Inspiration. This is Warden's Lament. I will be right back after this, and we will do the Q&A. We already have a couple dozen questions stacked up. I will attack the ones that are about the topic first, and then we'll go into everything else. See you shortly.
I walk alone across these broken worlds, reflecting back as my life unfolds. I knew my duty, I had my role. I knew my heart's desire, I had it so. Am I locked into his hell? Oh, is this all I'll ever know? No heart, no choice, no role. All day or morning, my world came crashing down. In chaos I was bound. Caught fire, was creating out the walls. All hope was lost, there was no more. My purpose twisted, my mind is not my own. A hunger grows inside like I'm never alone. All day or morning, world came crashing down, all around was bound. It came without a warning, where my kingdom drowned. Voices in my
And we're back, folks. And we're back. All right. So now we're going to do the Q&A portion. If you have questions, you can drop them in chat. I know a lot of people have already. I'm going to go through and hit that up right away. Thunder Chief, is Baeloth still broken or is Gaarawarr's guide on him not updated yet? I probably just didn't go back when they patched and updated. I have noted that. I will go through and review. Basically what happened is they had put some upgrades in the wrong order. Yeah, I will double check that after later today and update the guide. What else do we have here? Lots of general questions. I'll come back to these, but let's do the rest. Does Gromma still share her health with other champions when not in tank spec? Yes. Yes, she gets her health share in every single specialization she has. She also gets all of her health, so she is doing that, doing her job of being a good grandmother and protecting everyone in the formation by making them more survivable, regardless of what spec she's in. Does Gromma's Sleet Storm counter Deacon's more speed? No. So Deacon has a speed effect where he increases the speed of enemies, of the enemy spawn rate. That's a completely different thing. That's not their movement speed. That is the speed from which they go from this far right point of the screen, where you can see my cursor back behind these guys, to this point where you see them starting to get hit by enemies. He speeds up their movement through that so that he basically gets them to you so they can die faster. You can't hit them in that period, so Gromma runs out and smacks them afterwards and then slows them for the entire rest of this. So it's not a counter. These are two different separate functions. What's the best use a brand new player can get out of this giveaway pack? I mean, straight off the bat, they've given you lots of early unlocks that are useful, and then a very late unlock. So a brand new player isn't going to see Warden in their formation for a little while, frankly, even though they named it after him. What you are going to see is Dinar and Gromma and Baeloth and Shandy. And these are fantastic pickups. I will say, right off the bat, though, if you're going to use Gromma as a swap for Nayeli, Gromma's going to need to be your tank, because as a new player, you don't have any other tank options. It's either Nayeli or Gromma. And with all of those chests, Gromma will have some decent gear, but remember, that doesn't increase her health. So you will need to use Gromma. If you want to use Gromma instead of Nayeli, you're going to need to probably put her in a tank spec at first. But eventually, you'll get up to like Tyrell as a tank, and you won't need Gromma. And then Gromma can just tank in her Arctic spec for a while. And yeah, so it's going to be a little fiddly with Gromma because of that situation. But Dinar is a straight swap with Calliope. You're still getting healing, but you're getting more... you're getting a little better healing because it heals everywhere, but it's lower healing. And then Baeloth, Baeloth is fantastic gold find, but he also, unlike Jarlaxle, Jarlaxle is gold find DPS, so Jarlaxle is usually your first DPS as a brand new champion. So you will have to find a different. You will be using a different DPS if you're using Baeloth. However, while Jarlaxle provides a lot more gold than Baeloth does, Baeloth provides a lot more buffs. We talked about that. So Baeloth gives you the gold and the buffs, which is the best possible combination of those two worlds. And then Shandy, again, she's a buffer, but she's also a speed champion. You can use her early on just to get you through some of the early levels, and then if you want to swap to the flavor of the month, or the current top meta DPS, the Queen of DPS, Ashara, you can. Otherwise, you can try. We've got Minsk DPS. We've got Delana DPS. Yes, that's a thing I just said. You also sign up for the newsletter and get Hitch. As a brand new player, you come over here, you click the menu, and you sign up for the newsletter, and you get Hitch. And Hitch, despite saying he's just a support, can also DPS a little more consistently than Delana. So you have options to use these champions right away. It's just Warden's going to take a while to get into your rotation. But Warden is a great option, because normally you would have Jamila as a DPS here. You just have a lot of early DPS options. So you get a good option for support out of Warden once you get to his slot. Does Turiel's redirect count towards Gromma's spiked shell buff? I mean, yeah, Turiel would redirect into Gromma, Gromma then gets hit by whoever Turiel redirected. That's yeah. These are separate abilities. They don't. It doesn't count toward. It's literally just moving them into a different lane. Turiel moves them into a different lane, and Gromma then would soak up all the damage. Is Shades of Grey neutral along the lawful chaotic or the good evil axis, or both? It should just be the good evil axis. Ooh, I say that though, and now I'm like, is it though? Hold on. Let me double check. Let me see. It may be both. It may be both on neutral. No, it's going to be both. It's going to be both axes. So for Gromma's, it's going to be both axes. Because it actually doesn't anywhere specify one or the other, so it should be both. Those. Does Baeloth's cause for celebration trigger on enemies killed by ultimates if the ultimate belongs to a champion in one of the relevant columns? Fnord. I have not tested that out. I do not know. Generally speaking, on my pushes, I'm not killing things with ultimates that much. I'm killing them with the champions. So I do not know the answer to that. That's one you're going to have to test out. If you wipe, so all your champions died, Jin doesn't work, right? Well, I mean, so the Jin buff shows up on one champion that one time. You put it on, or you stack all of them up. If you get to the point where you're so far in that all of your champions then die, like in a row, well, then yeah, I mean, it all gets removed. Because he can only apply it to one, and then if they die again, it was on a timer, and yeah. Yeah, if you're that far, if you've taken the time to stack up, you need to be watching your formation. And if the tank is about to die again, then you're at your wall. You're at your wall. You need to back up to somewhere you can farm easily, get some more gold and upgrade, and then try to move forward again, or call it a day and do some Zaka farming, whatever. But yeah, that's not... Yeah. It doesn't then... Like, if you wipe, you lose all of it. You lose all of it. That one. Baeloth. Which spec to use? Yeah, I think we covered that. It depends on what you're using it for and how far you plan to go. The most potential buffage you're going to get is doing the manual manipulation of the Jin stacking, which means you're going to want to use the right-hand spec. Early on, you might get usage out of one of the left or the middle spec, but that's really depending on the situation that you're in and what you're trying to do. But you're going to get the most potential out of Baeloth in his right spec. Is it me, or is Shandy's Criminal Contacts doesn't benefit from Corazone's Make Neutral specialization? It should. It should. There is a thing with Corazone's when he makes things neutral, where sometimes you have to move the now neutral champions, like swap them back and forth in the formation to get the formation to register that they are now neutral. So keep that in mind. I don't know if they're fixing that or what, but that is a problem with Corazon. So make sure once you get Corazon to that upgrade that you just adjust just move your champions around that are being triggered to turn neutral, so that the game then registers them as neutral. And you can tell if it's working or not because you can go to his formation upgrades tab and see how many his max pools are. So just adjust them until you have the correct max number. If it's still not working after that, submit a ticket. Because anytime they add they've never had an ability that literally changes people's alignment before. So there may be something they have to do with Shandy to make her read it. Yeah. For some reason, my Warden Hex is already AoE using the left spec. Shouldn't be. Yeah. No. There may be something else that's... If you've got Krull in, Krull creates an AoE with Traitor. But yeah, the left spec isn't an AoE spec. Is Baeloth better for gold find than Jarlaxle? Yes and no. Big show. Pure numbers, Jarlaxle is better. However, pure numbers aren't always how this game works. Jarlaxle offers you absolutely nothing other than gold find when he's not the DPS. So if you are in a formation and Jarlaxle isn't your DPS, he's literally only giving you some more gold. Having Baeloth in instead would allow you to push further because he gives you lots of support buffs. And the further you go in this game, the higher the gold drop is. So ultimately, he ends up making you more gold. So yeah, keep that in mind. So yes and no. What are the best champions to use in order to take advantage of gen stacking? That's not a consideration. You basically build out your best possible formation that includes Baeloth, and then you stack up those gen buffs. He doesn't. All gen stacking requires is Baeloth. Should I use Baeloth over Jarlaxle for more gold? Again, I think we just answered that. If you're not using Jarlaxle, if you're not running Jarlaxle DPS, then you want Baeloth in. And arguably, even if you start your run with Jarlaxle DPS, if you get towards the end of your run, you may want to swap Baeloth in and try a different DPS and make even more money. Where can you get the giveaway pack? Trombe, this was a Steam promotion, so if you play the game on Steam or you decide you want to make a Steam account right now, just logging in to Idle Champions on Steam triggers the giveaway. I mean, it did. This is my main account is a Steam account. It gave me all that stuff. I had all the champions, but now I got a little more gear and some shinies because it comes with 16 gold chests and 2 shinies per champion. Plus, I got these 2 new familiars. So super nice. Someone was saying the familiars in the Steam pack will eventually make their way to the gem shop. Is there any truth to this? Most likely. The thing is ETA. No one knows. But anytime they do, once they introduced the gem shop, it changed the rules of how things would get reintroduced from promotions. So now the rule for new content like these is if it showed up in some sort of paid promotion, for instance, right now there's the Fenris Direwolf Pup familiar that is a paid promotion that is a charity familiar for $9.99. Pick it up. Support Take This. After that promotion ends, that familiar, if they ever retire it out of the store, it then goes to Wild Offers because it started its life as a cash familiar. It goes in the Wild Offer shop. When they do giveaways that are for free for anything, whether it's an anniversary thing or something like this, when those end, eventually they rotate into the gem shop. That's the way they've stated it. The gem shop could use a refresh because I think there's some things that it's missing, and the community has pointed that out to the devs, so hopefully that will happen in the near future. Hey Gaarawarr, is the huge gen stacking counter the post stack bonus on his character sheet? I don't have a way to do this. No. This is just telling you what the post stack bonus is. Once you start getting gen stacks, this information is going to change, and there will be more lines. It will tell you how many gen stacks there are, how many people gen has brought back to life, and then it'll show you like a total, different numbers in the total overall bonus. So this will get more informative as you actually apply gen stacks. I just don't think in this current situation. Hold on, let's find out. We probably want to do this differently. We're probably going to do this like this. Let's see if we can kill off Shandy here and get a stack so I can demonstrate that. I don't think I can. Yeah, no, even with 2 people, we're doing too much damage. So that's not going to happen. But yeah, it's gonna end up showing you a lot more information on that page. All right. That is all the on-topic stuff. Let's go back and address all the general questions from chat. How exactly does armored health and bosses work? From Drace. Armored bosses, so you see this in the current event, the current event boss on level 50, the Drow, Baeloth Tavabent, I think is her name. She is an armored boss, while her giant spider companion is a segmented health boss. So they both look similar in the sense that they've got this yellow bar with all these little sections. The difference is Baeloth has on her bar has a little shield icon, a little gray shield. That means she is an armored boss. The spider does not. That means it's segmented health. And when you hover over each of those bosses, like if you take your cursor and you hover over them, and it gives you more information in this game. So it gives you their health and what type of enemy they are. It will show that the spider has 50 HP. And when you have a yellow bar overlaying a red bar, that's 50 segments usually. So that means you have to do 1 point of damage minimum to remove a chunk of the segmented health for the spider. But Baeloth will have a gigantic health number. What that means is you have to divide that total health by 50 to determine, in this case it's 50. Sometimes you have to count the numbers if they're shorter, but generally speaking, bosses have 50. Divided by 50 to determine what the minimum damage threshold is to take off one chunk of armor. And it doesn't matter if you exceed that by outrageous amounts of damage. If you're only hitting one time, you're only removing one chunk of armor. This is the point of these bosses. It's supposed to create a situation where you have to survive their onslaught while doing a minimum amount of damage. This is where usually multi-hit champions come in handy, like Ashara or Hitch, because they're going to remove each attack. They send out multiple points of damage and remove multiple chunks. So you figure that out, and that's what you have to do. That basically means that an armored boss, like this Drider is a hit-based boss. You can see it just has 50 HP. That means an armored boss is only having chunks removed usually by your primary DPS once you're closer to your wall. Whereas everyone in your party can remove chunks, as you just saw there, from an HP boss. So the differences between armored and segmented health, as opposed to regular health. What's the go-to for Strix's spec that Panic Hide has changed? It depends on what you're doing. So Strix now has 3 specializations. The left one is supposed to be the DPS specialization, but it lowers your bud in the current version of the game, and that's usually not good. So you're either going for the middle one that buffs her Haunted, or the right one that buffs her debuff. If you're going to stack Haunted, which is basically killing off your party repeatedly, you go the middle one. If you're not, you go the right one, just for the bigger debuff. I don't currently use the left spec. It was supposed to be a DPS spec, but because it makes her base attack longer, like the take longer to do, it screws up Bud. I guess this one applied earlier. Are Gromma and Dinar bad together? Dinar's Fear Command kind of seems to go against Gromma's tanking abilities. Well, again, like I said, I don't use Gromma as a tank. I mean, I will put her in a tank line sometimes, but I tend to have her in her Arctic specialization choice. And in that sense, they're great. They keep things away from you. Now, that isn't always great depending on what tank you're using. Some tanks want that ramping buff, but it just depends on the situation, right? Sometimes you want to CC an enemy and keep it away from your party forever. They're great in that combination, so it depends on what you're trying to do. I don't know what those are referencing. That wasn't a conversation I was having, so... did you yourself face any excruciating game lag slowdown during the Bright Swords event? No, I did not. BA Billy G, I need a new Idle Champions goal Thursday. I just finished getting All Champs Epic. Nice, congratulations. Now I don't know what to do. Any ideas? Are your core and evergreen fully gilded? BA Billy G? That's one to go for. Now that everything's all epic, you can also start like what I did was raised my item level average floor so that all of my champions, now that they were full epic, had at least a certain amount of power. What does that mean? That means if I go over here and I look at all of my champions, you'll note that none of them are below, like here's a 94, here's a 96. None of them have an average item level below 90. Unless they're a brand new champion that I just haven't bumped up yet. In fact, where are the... Okay, Prudence needs to go up to 90, so I will do that a little later. But yeah, then I just start raising. I think I started at 50, and then I started bumping them up, like Nox is at 90. So currently it's at 90. I should probably look to get them up to 100, but I've been focusing all of my item levels like on Human for speed, and I think I'm going to dump him on Briv next. Like my Human's at 1298. I think he's probably solid. Now I need to go Briv. And then that'll get me more consumables. And then I can raise the rest too. But basically that means like having that as a goal for me means when I'm doing those variants, those difficult patron variants, when I swap in, if I'm forced to use champions I don't normally use, they're coming in with solid power. And I can complete that variant. Or more easily complete that variant. How about Gromma and Jim with his magic. Again, Gromma's... I think you're talking Gromma DPS, and... yeah. I don't know that, like, you could put in a lot of buffers to try to make Gromma a viable DPS, like Jim or Alcoria. At the end of the day, you could just put a different DPS, a different magic-based DPS in, and just stomp Gromma's DPS contribution. So, can you do it? Yes. And it may be something that you'll need to consider when you find yourself in a variant where you're just not given a lot of options. Absolutely, but it's just not necessarily something you would normally build around. BABG says, not gilded yet, but that's kind of a passive thing. Yeah, sure. Maybe perfect timing for Trials. Yeah, I mean, Trials of Mount Tiamat is supposed to come out at some point this month, so that itself is... oh no, what can I say about that they've said publicly? It is something that is also kind of a somewhat passive thing, because you just do like one trial every 7 days. And you only have to do like one task per day, so it's not something that you grind. I'm a newer player and want to understand items and how item upgrades work. Is there a guide or VOD I can watch that explains item levels, shinies, and strategies for obtaining gear for champions? Sort of. All of those things together, I don't know, but there's, I have a written guide called, I believe it's Items 101 on the Reddit. It's targeted at explaining how gear works for new players. Shinies, I think it explains shinies too. Shinies are basically, they give that item slot 50% more power. Strategies for obtaining gear, I mean, literally, when you're a new player, it's just using those gems you're earning on each run and buying chests out of the shop. That's how you upgrade that's how you get gear, and that's how you upgrade your gear, because every time you get a duplicate of something, that gives you more item levels, and that makes that more powerful. So, yeah. Those are just general things. As you get further in the game, there are other things you have to keep in mind, like time gates, running time gates for gear, patrons, and adjusting the patron pool, all that kind of... Those are all different ways to gear up your champions, and events when the events roll around again. Lafidi, is it possible to change platforms? No, it's not. Outside of some catastrophic failure of your device or something that means you can't ever play on that platform again, no. How do you shrink the character pictures to show all of them at once? It's in the settings. I don't know if it's on all platforms yet, but it's down here. Narrow bench boxes they added. I'm also using the console UI portraits. Those are the front-facing ones. Still trying to get used to it, but sometimes it is creepy having them stare at me. So yeah, narrow bench boxes is what I'm using. If that is on your platform, check your patch notes, see if it's in the settings. I wanted to use my core to farm chests by reaching 50 and resetting. So this is, I'm presuming this is in the event. That's not possible with the current event because of the increasing cost. That's not true at all. Is that strategy possible for time gates? No. Yeah, so there's an assumption here that's false and that's making some of your decision making problematic. The cost of free plays goes up by 500 each time you do it. It starts at 500, but it caps at 2,500. So yes, it does go up a little bit, but then eventually it caps, and then it's just one free play for 2,500 tokens. So you can churn them with your automation. In fact, that's what a lot of us do. I burned through over 100,000 tokens this event at the start of the event using automation to 50. So that is a thing. Now, in regards to time gates don't have the same rules. Time gates are not events. They are a separate system. They are a separate system that does a similar thing in the sense that it is a champion delivery system and an item delivery system, but it functions in different ways. In a time gate, because there's no tokens involved, it's not a token limited system. You can run free plays an infinite amount of them. So it's not about going to 50. In time gates, it's about how far can you push. So every unique 100 levels, you get a silver chest. Not a chance at a silver or gold, just a silver chest. So that max, you only get 3 gold chests out of a time gate. But up to, who knows? Well, now they changed the cap. This is a question that's further on, but they changed the damage scaling above 1,000. So now you can get 13 silver chests potentially without your account getting smacked across the face. Vision, how do I do the Corazon Ultimate achievement? Bring the heat. There's multiple guides out there now for that. There's even one I just saw posted in the Discord. I don't know. I think I did it live not yesterday, but the previous Friday on stream, so you could you go back and watch that VOD for GG2E, Gar's Guide to Everything in Idle Champions. I did it on the boss level of this event, and I used you can either use the Mage Hand spec if you have a lot of neutral champions to max out the count, or you can put Corazon all the way in the top back of the column and then put Jamila next to him because she qualifies for him, and then he will turn everyone else in your formation neutral. And then you just have to count the number of pools based off the number of times he's attacking that drop under the boss. This is why I like the Mage Hand one. It makes it easier. It's always going under the spider boss, but yeah, you just got to stack them all up and then fire off that ultimate. This also works if you're just doing a regular run and you're in one of those situations where you get to a boss level and there's one enemy left over that you just can't kill. Well, time to throw Corazon in, and since it's that's the only enemy there, you can stack up a bunch of pools under that one enemy and fire off the ultimate. So that works too. What should I buy with gems since I'm a new player? Familiar or chest? Code Hybrid. Somebody probably already linked the Idle Champions visual aids to you. The third visual aid down is the gems visual aid. And it goes over that exact question. TLDR, as a brand new player, the first thing you want to buy is the Mage Hand. It's only 250 gems. So you can literally get out of the tutorial, and usually by that point you have 250 gems, and then you can just buy it. Otherwise, one more mission and you can buy it. From that point on, you're buying silver chests until you have at least green gear, like no whites and no blank spots on your core and evergreen champions. Then you switch to gold, and then you'll alternate familiars and gold chests based off your preferences after that. Calabale, is it real that Azaka farming caps in 15 minutes? No. However, there are diminishing returns to the amount of gold you can earn on a given level. So if you are using like speed potions, then you may see that gold gain start to slow down after 15 minutes. But but it's not capped. There's no cap on the amount of gold you can earn on a level. It's just there's diminishing returns. Well, not in the sense that I shouldn't say that. You're always earning the same amount of gold every time you kill something or every time you fire off Azaka's ultimate. The thing is because you're just earning that same amount of gold, it's, seeing a number change, a significant number change is going to take longer because you're not earning more gold like you would be if you pushed further. So if you're Azaka farming and you're not yet to the point where I am, like down here where you have no upgrades left on your champions, you Azaka farm for a while, maybe 15 minutes, and then you swap back in your pushing formation, upgrade your champions, go further, stop an Azaka farm again. 15 minutes. Swap back in your formation, upgrade all your champions, go further. Like you can step by step move your wall and earn more gold this way on one run. I've gone from like E14 gold to E23 gold on one run. Or favor, I should say, on one run because I just did a step-by-step Azaka farm until I just couldn't go any further. Yeah. BA Bill G, did you notice the CNE move the kill wall at 1002 to 1451? I did. It's in the patch notes. Patch notes, folks, are down here in the changelog. Boom. They added a max health feats for the Nerds champion. Adjusted monster damage scaling so it no longer shoots up dramatically after area 1001. It now shoots up dramatically at 1451. So, I've been over 1,000 on these streams before. I guess now I'm just going to have to see how far we can go one day. I don't need to though. I don't need. There's no achievements for this, so I don't know that I care. Yeah. And then they fixed a bug. So yeah, for people who just like to test themselves and see how far you're going, that's a thing you can do now. Irian, how are you doing today? Good so far. This is really the first thing I do on Saturdays. I get up, I panic because I think I've forgotten to prep for this show, and then I make sure everything's set up, and then we do this, and then I go get lunch, and then I have to go to work. My other work. Yeah. So we'll see. Saturdays are odd because of that. Like I wake up, I do this fun thing, and then I get to have lunch, and then I have to do I guess it's a not so fun thing, like your usual job, but just for a few hours, and then I make dinner, and then watch some TV, and then I do my grocery shopping on Saturday nights, because I'm boring, folks. Honestly, it's the one time of the week where there's almost no one in the grocery store. And nowadays, that's fantastic. But that was always fantastic for me. Look, if I don't have to interact with tons of people, it's not busy, and I can just get what I want, go through the checkout line, and get home. Why not? Question, Niscus. Why is there a variant that allows you to only use 2 champions? It's a nightmare, and I like it. Yeah, I guess. It's, I don't know why they did that. But it directly led to the rise of click debuff, because that's a click debuff variant. That's how you get through that variant. That's really the only variant in the game that requires you to use click debuff to beat it. That is kind of what it was designed to do, because there's no way you're ever just pushing through with 2 regular champions. Maybe on the original, but not in any of the patron ones. Yeah. It is what it is. I don't think it's as bad as some... I prefer other challenges and variants, not just how much favor do you have. Who comes in new to replace Calliope? Well, there's lots of people that can be in Calliope's slot currently. Dadius, Xander, Keelik, Puent, Briv, Prudence. Most people look for Briv as their first swap in this slot, and probably Keelik as their second. But if you started recently, then you've already got Prudence. But she's DPS, so that's... Again, I think early on for new players, you've got a glutton. You've got a gluttony of DPS options, and you don't really need that. So usually you're looking for support-ish or tankish options in Keelik's slot, or in Calliope's slot. But honestly, I just love Calliope I think Calliope is a little underrated by some people. because Briv is in that same slot. They think, well, if you want survivability, you get Briv. And damage prevention is better than healing in this game. So Calliope is super strong all the time. Are there campaign reward champions besides Dritz? There are. Karasu 42. Those are part of the Evergreen champion pool. So there are a couple Evergreens like Hitch and Nerds who are available outside of the campaign. But then there's Dritz in the Sword Coast campaign pretty early on. There's Azaka in the Tomb of Annihilation. That's a big deal. Dragonbait is at the end of Tomb Annihilation. He's cool, and that is one of the most challenging variants in the game. I love that one. Ulcoria is in Waterdeep, and Rhea is in Rhea's in Descent into Avernus. We do not have an Icewind Dale Evergreen yet, but hopefully soon. Does Ishi's Friends to Shorty specialization count Ishi as well? Ooh. I mean, if it does, it should say so. Ishi is a Cobalt swap right here. And Jarlaxle will slot. It increases Ishi's damage by 100% for each Dwarf, Gnome, Halfling, Kobold, Sorial, or Goblin in the formation. So let's just go look. I mean, did we see a raise on it? Do we see a raise on it? It's not going to tell me, does it? Oh, I need to actually pick it. Duh, Gaarawarr. This is what happens on Saturday mornings, folks. Friend of Shorties. I currently have 2 stacks, so yes. I think, right? Because it's just me and Shandy, the Hero of Baldur's Gate. Yeah. So that's how you tell. You just go and check the current stacks. Check the current stacks. Now let's get everyone back in before they overrun our formation here. This is not a viable formation, folks. I just laid these out this way so that you could see them all and see their animations. For a starter, Artemis is a good character to pick from the Time Gate? Question mark. Raphael. If you're a huge Artemis and Trary fan, do it. Do it. Don't let meta or anyone else's opinions make you change how you want to play the game. Just understand that may not be the greatest experience early on, because yeah, he needs a lot of very specific support type champions to work, and your base core characters aren't going to greatly support him. Oh yeah, your Artemis is your favorite character. Then do it. Do it. Artemis challenges you. Artemis is like Archon. He challenges you to build formations in different ways and to think about formation building in different ways. I did talk about this in, you'll have to look it up. It's Gaarawarr's Guide to Advanced Formation Strategy. It's on the CNA Games YouTube. It talks about Archon and Artemis, and I go over that there. Because he wants to, he looks for other DPS in the formation, and he observes their buffs and makes them better. And his ultimate makes him attack faster after they do. So you really want to find champions that are tagged DPS/support to work with him. But I mean, you can use him. It's just he is he doesn't shine until he has those other options. He also has a specialization where he plays off of Dritz and Catti-brie, which, if you've read the books, you know that there's some canonical lore-based shenanigans going on there. So, picking up Dritz early on in the campaign is going to, help him play off that. But Dritz isn't necessarily support. Catti-brie is a support DPS, so she's a good pickup to go with him. Can you upgrade a blue shiny to purple? Yes. So blue shiny is a gilding, and blue and purple are rarities. These are 2 separate things. So once you've shinied something, it stays shiny regardless of what color you change it to. And then the rarities are just whatever, whenever you get a higher rarity item, it automatically swaps it in. So if you're trying to go from blue to purple, you need gold chests of whatever type that are going to drop gear for the champion you're looking at. And there is a chance to get a purple out of that. That's just how you go up the rarity scale. And pretty soon, when Trials of Mount Tiamat launches, we will have legendary gear. I don't know what color they're going with for that. But that will be on the rarity scale too. So that will be above purple. How many gems do you have? Not that many comparatively to some in-game players. Just under 200,000 because I think I spent 50k on stream yesterday buying a feat. But yeah, I'll probably be... This will go up a lot more after I stop doing streams. Streams slow it down because I'm not gem farming on streams. Camille, is the Eliwix Flames modifier active only when the card is active? That's the way it's supposed to work now. However, there was a bug for a long time, and it may still be out there, that even when the Flames wasn't active, it still happened. So yeah, if that's still happening, then just report it as a bug again. Yeah. Sometimes bugs come back. And sometimes maybe if you're on a different... I don't know what platform you're on. Sometimes maybe the patch hasn't gotten to you yet. Xanathar. Oh no, everybody run. Xanathar's here. Newish player. When should I use consumables? I always feel like I'm wasting them this early on. Yeah, I mean, kind of, right? I feel like consumables in general are something you hold on to for when you're doing either a difficult variant and you're getting towards the end and like you're 10 or 15 levels away. You can pop some consumables and they might get you that extra, depending on what ones, like giant strength and health, they might get you a little more. Fire breath are kind of like if you just want to kill faster, like progress through levels faster by killing with familiars because it's doing bud based damage. You still have to have a good formation for that. Speed potions I tend to reuse a lot of. Just when I feel like you can hold on to those in the beginning and then use them later when you're just trying to get through things quickly. Especially if you've got a lot of areas to go through. Like early on, I don't think you need to pop hour-longer epics. I don't think you're in adventures that long for speed potions. And then clairvoyance, I tend to hold those for if I'm doing a deep favor run. So if I know I'm going to push super far on a basic adventure or in a free play, and I know I'm going to farm favor, that's when I'm using lots of potions. Because I'm trying to get the very most out of my time. I'm trying to be efficient with my time. So keep kind of those rules of thumb in mind, and just when in doubt, if you're in trouble in a variant, potions are good for that. There are some challenging variants for unlocking like champions where you're gonna want as many potions as you have, as you can get. Can you use Gromma's Melf's Macid? So can you use Gromma's DPS spec for Akira stacking? Technically, yes, because if you pick Swamp, she becomes a magic DPS. So if Gromma is all you have available for that whole scenario for stacking Akira, which involves a lot of champions, yeah, it qualifies for that. Graydon, good champs for Strahd variants generally. Oh, okay, hold on. I have to pull this up on another screen because I can't remember who qualifies for Strahd off the top of my head, folks. There's too much stuff going on in the game. Okay. Good champs for Strahd variants generally in slots 1, 2, and 3. Currently you have Turiel, Krydel, and Mehen without his daughters. Okay, yeah. So, 1... I mean, you have Turiel. Cathris is eligible, as is Esmeralda, as is Sasaspia. I think those all serve a purpose, but Cathris is probably the more generally useful one. Esmeralda and Sasaspia are more niche usage. So that's an option. In slot 2, I mean, you've got Celeste with a feat. Celeste will qualify. Regis will qualify with a feat. Or Talon, right? Those are all useful. I think all of those are useful. 3, Gromma, right? Gromma with that feat. Once you get that feat, Gromma ends up being great. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, Artemis qualifies base, but yeah. I mean, Artemis isn't going to help you unless you need a DPS. How do I set an automatic reset? So you have to have... Oh, I don't even have one set up here. You have to have unlocked, split the party, and completed it, which means you need to have at least 2 champions in every slot. That grants you a Modron core, and then you come to your first party, you slot in your Modron core, and then you'll see this automation. You have to pipe it. to play the pipe game, and you have to activate this automation node. It's a lot of steps because this is a big thing. And then you come over to the automation tab, and then you can set a formation and an area goal to reset on. And then as long as you have familiars to buy these champions, when you reset, when you reach this level, it will reset. It will start the run over. It will load in this formation with the familiars paying for things or leveling things up. And then it'll just do that over and over again. It'll do that over and over again. There are guides for that. It's pretty much, folks, I have 99 active guides on the subreddit. Hopefully next week. Well, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I don't know exactly when. Hopefully in the next few weeks I will be able to post my 100th active guide. Easy peasy. Which packs in the store would you recommend for someone who would like to spend a little but not go too hard? Ooh, this is difficult for me to do because I've bought most of them. I've bought most of them. Oh man, we just retired the Founders Pack, but I'm betting there's going to be a new Founders Pack soon. Founders Packs tend to be $20, but they include tons of good stuff. Tons of good stuff. There's like a skin, and there's a familiar, and there's lots of potions, and there's lots of gems, and there's lots of chests, and then there's like a potion that lets you earn more gems for a week. Like that one's pretty awesome. That one's pretty awesome. Right now, though, there's the Take This familiar. Do I have... I don't have... Dang it, Gaarawarr. I don't have that as an overlay to bring up. But there's the Take This familiar. He's right here. I can bring him out, though. Fenris. There's Fenris. He's adorbs. Look at him. $10. And that goes to charity. I think there was the Gromishka was on sale for like $2.50 on, I don't know if that was on all platforms, but I know I picked that up. But yeah, unfortunately I own most of the packs that are out, so I don't know which ones are still in the store and which one aren't. Look for packages that are like, if they're like maybe $10 and they're skin packages, but they're it also grants the champion, and if it's a strong champion, like I knew once there was, I don't know if it's still there, but there was an Avron pack that gave you Avron plus a skin for Avron and some Avron chests, and that was only like $10, and that was fantastic. So you look for things like that. You look for things like that. Is Makos good? Sure. I mean, technically he's evil, right? But is he a good champion? Yeah. He's mostly a support champion. I know it says DPS, but he's really a support champion. And he does a lot of work for you early on. In fact, early on, if you're using Ashara DPS, you want to use Minsk and Tyrol together because that actually gets you your potpourri bond, which is the big deal. Ashara's bonds are the big deal. I'm a Chinese player. When are we getting Chinese language in game? They are localizing the game into new languages. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if that's one of them. But that's coming up soon. I just saw this one pop in. So wait, are you a dev? No, I'm not. I'm a player who makes guides for the game. I've been making guides for the game for almost 4 years now. The game now is 4 years old as of a few days ago. And because I made guides for the game, I started streaming the game, and lots of people started coming to my shows. And then they were like, hey, do you want to do that on our channel? And I was like, sure. So now we do it here. I also stream on my own channel, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr, 2 to 3 times a week. And I answer questions. So if you don't get all your questions here, you can come to my stream. So in a sense, I'm not a developer. I am not a full-time employee of CNE. But I am contracted to do these streams, right? To help educate you based off my knowledge of the game after 4 years, and all my guides. We're coming up to the last question, folks. So sorry if I don't get to your questions today. Again, you can hit up my streams or find me again next week doing this. So our guide for campaigns and variants for new players. Most guides I have seen include champions I don't have, and I don't know enough about comps yet. Big boy, I do have a guide for new players. It's called the New Player Reference. If you go to the link I just dropped in chat, Yeah, there's basically it's called a guided tour, a new player reference guided tour. It walks you through the early games in a kind of a milestone format, so that would help. We're going to end on not a question. Silverhawk says, "Thank you. I just want you to know you're appreciated. I like the math in this game. Your explanation of the mechanics makes the game more fun. I'm a new player, and sometimes I don't know what the simplest of things are in this game." Yeah, no, look, I was a new player too. It's been a while ago, but some days I feel like a new player because I forget what's going on, which is why I have guides. I can always go look it up again and go, oh yeah, that does that. So yeah, I mean, everyone's a new player at some point. That's why my guides, my personal guides, all the ones I make, are focused more on explaining things for new players. There are a lot of other guide makers in the community that dive into deep maths and super crazy formations and all that kind of end game stuff, and you can read theirs, and they do great stuff, and they make, they'll do like Silesis does reviews, but their reviews are targeted more at like how to use the champions in end game. So keep an eye on that. Just because they say something isn't great at end game doesn't mean it isn't great for you as a new player. So don't necessarily let other people's opinions ruin your fun. That's going to be it, folks. We're out of here today. I believe streams return on Monday. Monday's not a holiday, right? No, that was this week. Yeah, streams will return on Monday with Lauren's weekly patronage stream at noon Pacific. And again, because this is the anniversary month, streams are going to be all over the place, and there's going to probably be lots of them and lots of things going on. So stay tuned in the Discord, and make sure you're following this channel, because lots of stuff this month, folks. Lots of stuff this month. We're going to go out with Shandy's song, Shandy, the Hero of Baldur's Gate, from Bardic Inspiration. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Mask up. Get vaccinated. So we can all go see each other in person at some point in the future. Bye, everybody.
Fill your cups with mead or wine and go top off your ale. Now it's time to gather close to hear this halfling's tale. Battling dragons, skeletons, and riding on a whale. Hunting down the creatures that make other heroes pale. Shot the dragon orb out of a deadly frost giant's hand. Freeing all the dragons out from under his command. She's Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. She's Shandy, the savior of all. She's fleet of foot, quick of hand, with eagle eyes she spies, always taking down evil monsters 20 times her size. She's Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. Battled 50 demons, then she banished 50 more. Just an arrow from her bow can kill 1,000 orcs. You want this woman on your side whenever you go to war. Her enemies will never know just what she has in store. Like the time she knocked the teeth out of a bugbear's snout, or when she sent 100 soldiers scrambling in a rout. She's Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. She's Shandy, the savior of all. She is great of foot, quick of hand, with eagle eyes she spies, always taking down evil monsters 20 times her size. She's Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. She's Shandy, the savior of all. She's fleet of foot, quick of hand, with eagle eyes she spies, always taking down evil monsters 20 times her size. She's Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate.